copy of that. We'd like to just know where you stand with having public ordinances.
Okay, as far as the ordinance that you have in your hands from Lee County, it's in the hands of our attorney, and I'll let him respond to that.
That is one of the number of options that we're considering, and we're not ready to go public with that at this point in time.
You know, when you'll be ready to go public with something like that.
Possibly in about 2 weeks.
We understand there's a public information hearing coming up with Granville, and we wonder if this might be speeded up so that it would make a statement to them before they come to town.
I think that's a question that the board will have to answer. It's difficult at best to provide a concerted effort to these things. I think, I've heard from a number of citizens, I know they want to know point by point, what you're going to do legally. My answer to that would be, my client, I'd be a fool, first of all, if I did that, and certainly wouldn't serve you or my clients. And so I told them, those are things that are on the drawing board and have been from the very inception. By the same point in time, you don't want to go out willy-nilly adopting ordinances. We have time to respond to this, and I think the time frame we're working with is a good one. So in those ordinances, there are not anything that it takes a great deal of time to pass either. So
That's what we were just
give
wondering.
us a breather. I can assure you we've got your interest at heart.
We know that.
And all of those things are being considered.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman and gentlemen of the Board of Commissioners, I'm A.H.A. Williams of Oxford, a native of Granville County from 1913 on up to now. I would like to ask you, what date did you first hear about the waste dump being put in Granville County? Has anybody got an idea what that date was out as a matter of the public? I'd like to know, and the public would like to know.
One of the final 18 sites, I can answer that for you, is April 27th.
April the 27th of this year?
Yes, sir.
1990. I'm going to write that down so I don't remember good. I want to encourage you to pass whatever legislation is on the desk there that you can possibly pass that would be in opposition to such an establishment in Granville County. Particularly, we are interested in today's paper that said the prison system now has revolving doors. That means you go in and you get out. If we were to have a malfunction of the waste plant, it's very likely that they would have to evacuate the prison at Camp Butler, about 1,500 prisoners. And there ain't enough places in North Carolina to put them, and I don't know where they'd haul them to. We also have a different situation over there that's equally as bad at Camp Butler in the hospital that's for the infirm. I think there's about 2,000 of those over there, and if you turn them loose in Butler, they couldn't get to Creedmoor. They don't know how to go anywhere. We just don't need that situation in Granville County, and I urge you and encourage you to cast negative votes, pass negative legislation that Attorney Hopper will be glad to draw for you, and I'll help him. I'm not an attorney, but I'll help him get up that stuff if you want to. But just be opposed to it.
Come right back, September, October, and come back with new criteria, new rules, and I think we've got to do more than just try to beat this on a criteria basis. I think we've got to do something politically. I know that we're not as well represented in the House of Representatives and in the Senate as we used to be. But I think we need to draw more pressure upon our representatives, and I think that's something that the county commissioners could do. I would encourage you to do that. I would appreciate it if you could let the GROW organization know what your efforts are in that area so we can coordinate our efforts with you. I think that we are, as an organization, we're going to start doing everything that we possibly can to put more political pressure on leaders in Raleigh and in Washington to draw their support. We're also going to try to bring a lot of the municipalities and county governments downstream and upwind from us into the fight. And I encourage y'all to do that as much as you possibly can. Thank you.
Just one more. The Waste Commission can't change anything. This is Bill 324 that the legislature, that the commission, the task force cannot change one criteria. But we have to prove to them that they were wrong.
But I don't believe it. See, they say that they can't, and I know it's in that Bill 324, but I still don't believe it. As a citizens group representative, I do not believe it. I used to trust it. I do not believe that they will not change the criteria. They can change the criteria for the site to suit their purposes and their needs.
No, that would give a chance to meet the injunction, wouldn't it?
Well, I would hope that wouldn't happen.
I would be interested to see them do that.
Well,
I don't really believe they're gonna do that, Mr. Webb, although I wish they would.
we'll see. I wish y'all would put more political pressure on our leaders, though, in Raleigh and in Washington. We need to draw from them.
Washington and Raleigh all day today get the big orange drink. I'll be fine.
All right.
We have been working, one of us in various positions legislative, but we may not have done enough, I would admit, but we are working.
Thank you.
My name is Chris Combs. I'm a citizen of Granville County. I work for the Grow organization as well. Nice to see you both here tonight. What I want to do is kind of expand on what Hiram was talking about. One of the actions that we're planning on taking is we have talked with other environmental groups across the nation as well as across the state. And we believe that this is not just a Granville County or Rowan and Iredale problem. This is a state problem as well as a southeastern problem. What we see happening across the nation is we see that the northeastern states are tightening up on their environmental regulations. And what's happening is that they're coming to the south because we have no regulations. And what we plan on doing is we're planning on pushing for a statewide political movement that is going to make an impression on the state legislature and get them to change the way that this state manages its hazardous waste. And we believe that this is really the only effective long-term way to influence the way that our environment is handled and our health. And we would appreciate your gentlemen's support in this. Anything that you can suggest as far as ways to influence our state legislature and our state senate, we would be greatly indebted to you if you could let us know how to do that. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Chris. That's interesting to me because there's a lot of other counties, if we achieve this, that means 99 other counties or 98 other counties have gone for it, and tackling Senate Bill 324 may be the way, the route to do it.
I don't see the other right, except try to have it changed somewhat. Exclude.
Good evening, my name's Judy Babb, and I'm on the task force, and I'm representing the public. I feel like that you're working very hard for us, and I appreciate it. But I would like to see more of you speak out verbally as to how you do feel about it. Because I do think it's important to the public to know that you are working hard. And I realize that you cannot give your chips away, and I'm not asking you to give them away. But I am asking you to take a firm stand. This is an issue in Granville County, as far as I'm concerned, that is the most serious issue we have ever had to face. As a member of this task force, I am willing to work long and hard, day and night. I am willing to fight it all the way to the White House. And if you're not willing to do that, I think you need to count your chips at home because you will suffer the consequences. Because you are elected officials, and we are expecting you to come through for us. We're expecting to work very hard for you, but we're not expecting you not to take a stand and not to say how you feel about it. Now, it's obvious that Mr. Robert Estrada has said how he feels about it, and I appreciate him telling it like it is. So remember one thing, the public does deserve to know what is going on. You do not have to tell us the minute details, but I do think that they need to know because they're very frightened, they're very afraid, They care about their loved ones, and as far as I'm concerned, that is the most valuable asset I have in my life. I can lose my home. Everything I own could be destroyed before I get home tonight by act of nature. I can live with that. I can lose my home to a four-lane highway. I can live with that. But I cannot live with the forces of chemicals who will kill me and the people that I love, and I cannot see them nor fight against them. This is not something that we can do alone, and we realize that. But if we all join hands together, give strong support, don't talk to one man on one side of the street and tell him you agree with what he thinks about the hazardous waste site coming because he's against it. And then go on the other side of the street and talk to the man on the other side of the street and tell him that you are for it because he's for it. You better take a stand, because if you don't, you will have to live with it just as I will for the rest of your life. Thank you.
Judy, for one moment, the gentleman in the back called me one Saturday morning. I sat with him in his living room most of the morning. That doesn't bother me a bit. I have never been invited to a Grove meeting. And all of us don't need to go.
I'm not representing Grove. I'm representing Judy Bowden, the task
But I mean,
force.
if somehow or another, if there's anything we can help you with, we don't want to get in the way. But I have a strange feeling that you call any commissioner or any of the staff, we'd be glad to meet with you and tell you where I'll stand. And I know I'll do it at any time.
Then maybe we need to have you interviewed and have each one to say publicly exactly how you do feel about it, so we'll have it on the
I
record.
can tell you right now, I'm opposed to the damn thing.
All right.
In some way, you might have got the feeling that some of us are not in that stand. This group made a stand about a year ago on the other incinerators that there'd never be one in the county at all. I mean, that was our resolution, what, about a year ago?
6 months on the medical waste for that.
Yeah.
There are a lot of resolutions in Granville County, but it does not mean that each person is for it. It can be unanimous by the major part of the vote. We would like to know how each individual person feels. Makes a lot of difference in the way we vote next time, okay? Thank you.
If there's someone here that's for it, they sure haven't spoken up yet.
They've kept it hid.
We all took a stand, we passed a resolution opposing it, what, 2 weeks ago? Took a stand. We all, no, I didn't.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Corey. We live about as close as anybody can possibly live to the site and not have our land bought for it. We can't move, and we'd like to know what the group that went to Rock Hill, South Carolina last week found out. What is it we're going to have to live with, because we cannot move our home. We've been there over 75 years.
Anyone going to Rock Hill was to answer that question.
I went to Rock Hill, young lady, and I would like to tell you, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. I'll tell you what bothers me more than anything else. If it comes to North Carolina, there will be 3,500 barrels of medical and hazardous waste coming to Granville County or into North Carolina each week for incineration. Now, much of that stuff is inert, but I have a chemistry background. You can take acetone over here and nitrates over here and burn them, no problem. You put them together, you've got nitroglycerin. If somebody makes a mistake, if there's a computer error or a malfunction, or somebody puts the wrong barrels in that, we have a heap of trouble.
And where does that leave those of us that live within a half a mile of it?
You're in trouble quicker than are in time, to be here very quick. It is extremely dangerous. I didn't know the magnitude of the operation until I went there. I don't mean to speak for these other gentlemen.
Let me ask one other question while I'm up here. When did the other 16 counties find out that they were in this group that was being selected of 18?
It's on the 27th, if I remember.
No one knew
16
until
counties
then.
were April 10th, I believe.
And
That
we
was
didn't know it April
approximately,
10th.
that was 83 sites on April 10th. On April 27th, we got official notice. I think it was announced on the news on April 26th, but I did not hear it. That we were one of 18 sites, and then on May 1, I believe, they designated final two.
That's right.
That was
That sounds very encouraging.
Yes, John.
Mr. Chairman, can I address that issue? And I'd like to address it from right here. In the first meeting that we had, I asked the commissioners a great deal of questions about the notice that was given. And I'm afraid that some of the public may have been left with the impression that the county or you as a commission may have had some advanced knowledge and didn't take any action. Well, I'm here to attest to anybody here that what they sent them was another piece of trash maybe. They sent them a piece of paper and said, well, we're considering a site somewhere in Granville County. It deserved no consideration. It deserved nothing. And I would also like to advise those of you who are here, it's just typical of the way the commission has approached the thing and the way they've tried to ramrod it through both the legislature and the citizen process altogether. They knew April the 1st that the 18 sites existed. They had already done tests on the 18 sites, but they didn't bother to tell these men up here. They didn't bother to come to them and say, we've got the sites selected. They knew 10 days before, as I mentioned earlier in this thing. They knew that this site was probably going to be one of them 10 days before they even announced that the 18 sites were selected. These gentlemen have acted and reacted appropriately as the Hazardous Waste Commission has given them information. The Hazardous Waste Commission has simply not given them the information. They've not been truthful. They've not been totally upfront from the very get-go. And these men are not to be blamed at all for that. They have acted as quickly and as appropriately as the state of North Carolina, the Hazardous Waste Commission, and the situation calls for. So they deserve our support in fighting it even further. But it's the other guys that have been fighting unfair. The governor, Mr. Maverick, and Representative Barnes.
Any other comments? All right, we go to committee reports. Operations Committee, Finance Committee, presentation by county board members. Mr. Jay.
Mr. Chairman, let me just say one thing, since there may be citizens who may perhaps have some doubt that there are often individuals on the board who may not be against this in some way. Personally, I have not supported one, and I definitely do not support this one. I have two very small children, 1 3 and 1 6. Granville County has been home for me all my life, and I surely hope my 2 children will stay here. This is the last thing I'd like to see happen here. So I'm totally against it, just as strong as you can be. I just wanted to make that known to the public.
Again, I'd like to thank the community tonight for speaking up. I think I've spoken enough to know of my opposition. I will remain opposed. I'm adamantly opposed. And hopefully before the next few weeks are up, we can do something other than rattle our sword. We can strike with it.